All righty. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're all in good form.
We have a couple of extras this week. This call has been quiet the last while.
It has been quiet, but it's, I guess, busy season, right? Hello, Ian. How are you?
Hey, good, thanks. Yourself?
Great, thank you. Thank you for asking. So, how are things down in Oz?
Good, good. Yes,
Yeah,
I think I don't really have questions this week. I just wanted to jump on and let you know that things are working.
good.
Um, it's been a bit of a long road to get here, but I was just looking through the calendar. January's booking really nicely. I'm not working a lot of January, but what I'm working is booked. Um, calls going well. The mix of people on the other end of the phone is a lot better, a lot more aligned. Um, yeah, everything's feels like it's clicking finally. We're back on track.
Good stuff. So, Ian, what would you put that down to?
Oh, 100%. Well, actually, um, um, I'd say 50%. The the changes in the avatar, um,
Okay,
changes
great.
to that ad. I'm hearing more of our clients more of the calls are about the ad, are about the focus on the avatar, focused on the actual problem that is identified in the ad. In the past, the rest of the calls were all for, for anyone on this call that hasn't hasn't met me before, it's 4 a.m. I'm in Melbourne. That's why I can't speak English. Um, uh, so so more of the calls are really well aligned now. The other 50%, I would say, would be just lots of little tweaks along the way. There's been so many small tweaks. The location targeting stuff has definitely made a change. I've always kind of felt like things were getting closer, but the last one um, sort of tipped over the edge and made it all start to really work. The maths are working now. The the spend is converting into into sales really pretty well. Yeah, exciting times.
Great work. So,
Yeah,
as you say,
thank
it
you.
took a
Oh,
little while. It took a little while to
great
get
work from
there.
all of you as well.
No, well, you're the one who've done all the work and joining us at 4 a.m. all the way from Melbourne. That's some
It's
commitment.
important. It's worth
But
it. Um,
so I'm excited for you. That's great news. So
like, likewise, it shouldn't be working at this time of year. I wouldn't think that people would be picking up the phone. So I'm excited to see what January looks like when the clients have a bit more time.
yes, yes, good. So it sounds like you feel that you have a proactive marketing campaign now that you can run and complement your other marketing with to get fully booked, right?
Yeah, I think the next step for me is um to start shifting the rest of my marketing towards this avatar. So the copy on my website, I think should be actually this is a good question. Is that a good idea to be going through the website and targeting that avatar, more specifically, changing my email copy, etc., so that my business is sort of more geared towards that person.
You already know the answer.
Yeah, I thought so. I'd been until now. I'd been thinking that I had a couple of avatars, a couple of reasons for people to book, but um, so yeah, that's why everything had been a bit general still.
Well, you do have, so we've discovered the top line avatar if we talk to that, right? But there may be sub avatars. Sorry, there are sub avatars. So if the woman is married with a partner, well, then her partner's another avatar,
Yeah,
right? So it's important to work out who that avatar is so that when we're talking to their partner, that they will have a different perspective on things.
Okay.
So just to give you an example of that, because this actually might fit with your avatar somehow.
Uh-huh.
So do you know Steve Saporito, a fellow Australian?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So Steve's a very good friend of mine, and we work together on stuff. Have you ever trained with Steve?
I've done short things with Steve. He's not only
Okay.
a fellow Australian, I think he's a fellow Melburnian. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, he is. He is. Yes. He is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So so Steve is this is one of Steve's clients, right? And Steve is for me is the best person on avatars in the world. So despite you having success with us, I think Steve's even better.
Okay.
And one of the examples Steve gives is that for family portraiture, when you talk to, say, mum, who example is your high level avatar, right? Because that's who you have your conversations with. And you're talking to mum for your avatar about her concerns about her active children, right? And how people see them, right? When you ask mum about the relationship her partner has, say, with their son, mum might say, well, their relationship is summed up by when their partner comes home and they do a mock fight on the floor, right? That summarizes their relationship.
Yep.
Right. But he gives the example of when you talk to dad, in this case, and you have a conversation with dad, often through his eyes and his perspective, the relationship with their son, it's something else that defines that relationship.
Okay.
And one example he gives in this instance was where the partner, as I mentioned, mum gave the example of having their mock fight, right? When they talked to dad, dad said, well, when Timmy and I go for a walk every Saturday and we're walking out to open the gate to go for a walk, he tends to just tip his hand off my leg to let me know that he's ready for me to hold his hand.
Uh-huh.
And that's what summarizes our relationship. That's when he knows I'll always be there for him, and I know that he loves me dearly as his dad. Yeah. So when you discover that, then as the photographer, right, or the difference maker, you are going to make sure that you photograph an experience that reflects that importance. And
Yep.
in this example, one of the collections of portraits like you have behind you on the wall that was invested in, the big piece, right, was actually just them holding hands, just a zoomed in photo of them holding hands.
Huh.
And then there was the other photos that reflected that relationship of dad with Timmy, right?
Yeah, right.
So on your avatars, you're gonna have who you talk to most with mum, right? But when you then start to involve their partner in the case of what they do and understand their partner's relationship, in this case, dad, with their children, you will get a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's when your clients will invest in multiple collections of wall art that are behind you.
Hmm.
Because if we just take the example of Timmy, and where Timmy feels confident that his dad is always going to be there for him no matter what, where as Timmy grows up would you want that wall collection displayed when Timmy opens his eyes? What have I just done there?
Yeah.
I've anchored a
Yeah,
collection in Timmy's bedroom, right?
yeah.
Okay. So, and this is what Steve teaches better than anybody. He teaches how to understand the individual relationships within a dynamic like a family, and understanding that dynamic and what role do these portraits when they're displayed have to have on those people today, tomorrow, forever. that's when you get your clients to invest in multiple collections of wall art.
Awesome. This was 100% worth the early wake up.
So when you start to build your sub avatars out, right? But it's good to start with one, right? But as you start to build out your sub avatars, you will discover that there's other dynamics.
Yep.
So so when did I do that? I did a postgraduate diploma in international selling in 1996, I think it was. And at that time, one of the educators in the US was teaching us this model of, he used iBuild, IBUILD. And he was explaining that in every transaction you have as a business with somebody, that iBuild represents a different need or desire by somebody. They can all be within the one person, or they can be split into individuals. So the I is the initiator. So in your case, the initiator is mum, right? Because she's the one responding to your adverts, because that's who you're talking to, right? And B stands for buyer. So who's holding the wallet? It might be mum and her owner, it might be mum and her partner. There might be multiple people holding the wallet as the buyer. So who's the user? U is for user. So the user is the whole family, right? Because those portraits will have an impact on, has to have an impact on each member of the family.
I often find that my clients haven't ever thought about the fact that their kids are going to use these photos, and it does make a shift when they become aware of that, when I think these kids are going to see these pictures every day, and it'll have an impact on them. It'll help form the story of the family.
Yes. And if you take your avatar for an example, like you mentioned, that like those kids are probably constantly hearing, slow down, stop running around the place, stop messing in school, or stop doing that, or stop. And all they're hearing is people trying to get them to stop doing who they are naturally, right? And being who they are naturally. And everything that they do and going to school or whatever is built around suppressing that energy and not allowing them express themselves, right? But when your portraits see to them that that's okay, and that's who they are, and it's okay to be that way despite what everyone is telling them, well, that's giving them a confidence to be themselves, right?
Yeah.
And yes, they have to be respectful of others, but it's giving them a confidence that you can be yourself, while having a respect then when you need to have a respect for, if you're in a classroom, you can't be tumbling over things all the time or whatever they might do, but they still know that they can still express themselves in ways.
I love it. I'm loving this avatar in general. It's what a reason to get out of bed in the morning to help kids feel that. Just absolutely awesome. Sorry, I interrupted before, and I've slowed you down. We're up to you, and this is gold. What's who's I?
Who's I? So we were on L, right? So L is lodge keeper, which is like a gatekeeper, right? So who is the lodge keeper or the gatekeeper that's preventing you getting to who you need to get to make a decision, right?
Okay.
So that there may be a lodge keeper in this case, or there may not, right? And then D is for decision maker. So who has the final decision?
Okay.
Because you may recognize that if you only talk to mum and their relationship is about they both have to make a decision on an investment over a certain amount, well, then you need to involve both of them early enough in the process that they see the value that you're going to bring. And that conversation with dad, if dad is part of that, will allow him to see the value in what this is about.
Okay. All right. I love it. I've missed one. What's I?
I is the first one, which is initiator. So who initiates it can be initiator or influencer, one or the other. So in a corporate setting scenario, most people will have somebody who they know who might be an influencer or an initiator to get you in the door, right?
Okay.
your initiator is probably mum because she's the first one to
Yeah.
talk, but you can wear multiple hats, right? So she's also initiator, she's also a user, but she's probably also a decision maker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can wear
Is there a
multiple
second
hats.
I?
No, IB.
Okay.
Oh, there is. Initiator and influencer, they're two separate eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the influencer who's going to influence. So, for example, you hear some horror stories sometimes where for a photographer's design consultation or sales or ordering appointment, or whatever that is, that they bring somebody with them who was not
Yeah.
involved in any of the process, right? And they kill the sale. Yeah, we've all
Even if
been
they're not
there.
there, there could be
Even
a
if
friend who's had a horrible experience with a photographer or something that
correct,
gets in their ear and says, you're going to get scammed.
correct, or any of those, but especially if has it happened to you where somebody turns up who you weren't expecting?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mum who's just come over from Eastern Europe, and in the middle of the sales appointment, she whispered to her son something that he translates later to me. It says, "She just told me that print is worth more than a car." Not helpful, Mum.
Yeah. So what happened?
He basically just ignored his mum. I was lucky, but definitely she was there to derail. Yeah.
Okay. So it's important that if that ever happens, that we close it down.
Yeah.
You cannot allow anybody into that session with you who hasn't been part of the whole experience and understand what this is all about. You cannot go ahead and risk the whole thing closing down because of that. You got lucky that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
99 times out of 100 it ends up badly.
I think sometimes if dad hasn't been involved at all, it could be dad, couldn't it?
Yes.
The person who comes in with other baggage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
You're welcome. All righty. Who has a question for us today other than Ian?
We have a few new people on the call. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Raphael. Hey, Richard, how are you? Oh, Raphael, I think you've been on before, have you? No.
Okay.
No, first time. All right. So if you have a question, guys,
this is my first time.
Oh, okay.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Right. Thank
Keep
you.
an eye on the road. Keep an eye on the road.
Trust me, okay? Trust me.
Okay, I trust you.
This thing called living, I like.
Okay. Good stuff. So, Amanda, if you had a question, what might it be?
Actually, I started all of this just last Friday, so I'm barely through. I watched a lot of the videos, got through kind of the basics of the ads, like the AI, going through all of that stuff right now, and watching the basics of like creating the problem and then going from, giving them that solution or poking at the problem, which is something I've never learned ads. I've been a portrait photographer for 8 years. It was something that I started when my firstborn was really young. And I was that shoot and burn photographer. And my main business was referrals. And I never thought that it would be something that I could do full time. Until it got to a point where I kind of lost the passion for it because I was having to book so many sessions a month to pay anything or even get enough money to go buy groceries or anything like that. So it was really dragging me down until I met a mentor, a main mentor of mine, Megan DePrario, and she introduced me to sales and getting the artwork to them. And that's when I felt like I almost felt like I was not servicing my clients enough. I felt like I have the ability and the resources to give them a way better experience than I was. And it went from, I have to photograph 30 sessions a month to if I just photograph 4 at a good price, like it would be great. But then I moved. So I moved a couple hours away from where my main clientele was. And then I found a studio space and I opened up that studio space, and things were good for maybe a couple of months because I was new in town and I was running all these promos and deals to get people in the space. And now it's completely dead. So that's when I had to take the jump, and I found you guys, and I just had to figure out, how to market myself. And I love, like, one of the very first videos when I was trying to figure out who my ideal client was. And you guys said it's somebody who blissfully does not know you exist, because going from the transition of like not offering the digitals until you purchase, a print or anything like that, my whole family like kind of shut off by that. And I'm like, okay, my family is not my ideal client. I can't spend my time, trying to drag them all in and they don't listen to me anyway. So who wants to work with your brother and his family that don't listen to you, and your nieces are trying to destroy everything in sight? Or and it was just kind of heart-wrenching at first when like my family did start to go to other people. But then I started gaining, like, I had that I gained a couple of clients. And I remember my first $5,000 sale 2 months ago, and I knew like this is a huge possibility for me. I have 2 kids and a husband, and this is something that we desperately need. So I'm really thankful to be a part of it and be here. And like these calls really help too, like knowing that there are more people that are trying to do the same thing. And so this is my first one. I'm really excited. I'm really ready to create multiple ad campaigns.
Good stuff. So have you walked through Amanda creating your avatar?
No, not yet. So I have no idea what
Okay.
you guys were just talking about, but
Okay.
I was taking notes. So
Okay. So when you get to go into KCB, she will walk you through the steps of creating your avatar.
okay.
And it uses our Wish, Hope, Fear, See framework. And the key part there you're looking for is, so there'll be the stated desire of your client, right? That's what they will tell you they're after. So yours might be, oh, we're after newborn portraits, or we're after photographs of our new arrival or whatever. So that's their stated desire, but their hidden desire is what is it about those portraits that they truly want? What are they moving? They're moving towards pleasure or away from pain, right? Or both.
Well, I'm more targeting towards like the glamour sessions of like 40 over 40 campaigns, and I love branding and headshots. So that's where I thrive and get really creative, and I have already like a client closet buildup and things like that. So I try to attract people by being like, I've got blazers for you. I've got dresses and things like that.
Okay. So it's not about that first, right? Yes, that's great. It's part of the experience where you have a wardrobe that they can choose from. And I'm not saying that's not important, but that's not the reason why they're going to book a portrait experience with you. So what is it about your clients that if we take that client who made that large investment, right? What was it about the experience and the portraits that they invested in? What was it about those that allowed them to make that investment? And what was it about those portraits that when they see them today displayed or in the album or in the folio box, wherever you sold them, what is it about those portraits that make them feel the way they do when they see those portraits?
Well, this was a client that found me on a Google thing, and it was their 50th wedding anniversary, so they asked all of their kids with their kids to get together, and it was definitely a whole family thing. It was 19 of them, so their big piece of wall art was like the whole family picture. And then they also ordered what I call the story box, which is actually what you have behind you. It's the 3XM box, and they ordered like the 25 image collection type of thing, and a few other add-ons here and there and a la carte stuff. So that whole experience was a lot. It was they lived over an hour from me, over an hour where my studio location is, but I drove to her for a consultation. I drove to her for like a styling thing, and I looked at her walls and I measured everything. And there was a lot of homework in it that I had to solve. Like her husband was one to say, Well, she's one that likes to change decor a lot. And I was like, okay, so what is like the main concern with this? So I actually made sure that the piece of wall art could go on 3 different walls so that if she did want to change things, that it could move walls, or she could put something else there. And his other concern was during the holidays, she puts other stuff up. So I ended up ordering, I told him I had a solution for that, and I ended up ordering a Uline art box and customizing it to how big their art frame was. And so they were pretty relieved with all of that, because his concern was traveling or storing it, or if they move or anything like that. He kept throwing all those excuses out. That was definitely like that older husband that was like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? We don't want to spend a couple thousand on this if it's going to get ruined. And then I cast it out like, okay, lifetime guarantee. So if you invest this with me, if anything does happen, God forbid, I'll replace it. So I definitely took care of the homework. They came, I went to their session, and their session, it was a rainy day. So it took more than an hour and a half to be able to capture all of those portraits. We were running in and running out, and I had an assistant, and it was a whole experience. So I think they really invested in me, because I took the time to drive to them several times. I took the time to be sure that everybody was styled and comfortable, and the kids weren't sitting in the rain, and we got them done first. And yeah, so I made sure every family also had their own individual portrait, and that their kids had their own individual things. So I think that really added to the sale as well, because they couldn't buy one individual of this grandkid and not the other grandkids. So.
All right. That's great work. So when you do go to create your client avatar, Amanda, what I want you to think about is, what was her name? What was that client's name? Can you recall?
Claire, yeah.
So when Claire sees the portraits displayed in her home, how do they make her feel? So I want you to think about that. And when you build your avatar, if Claire is going to be your avatar, if she is, right, then as you picture Claire, as you walk through the framework, and picture Claire and think about how these portraits make her feel today, tomorrow, and forever, because that's what you've gifted her, right? You've gifted her that those portraits have a role for her today, tomorrow, and then forever with her whole family. So how does that make her feel? Just think about that. I don't want the answer now, because you're going to have to reflect on it, right? But as you create your avatar, think about that, because that's the journey that Ian has been on, right, Ian? And it took a while to get there, but once you get there and you understand your avatar, your client avatar, and you can have multiple avatars, but if you understand your main avatar to start with, it allows you then to create marketing messages that connect with that avatar. So when we run our marketing and our advertising, and they raise their hand and we earn that conversation, we're attracting more people who are like our avatar, right? Who share the attributes of our avatar, and in particular that hidden desire. If you can discover that hidden desire, that's when the investment level will go up. When you solve that hidden desire, like the example we discussed with Ian a second ago about dad and his son Timmy, right? And that relationship and what that meant. That was another collection sale. Otherwise, they would have just bought the family collection, right?
Yeah. Nope, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great job. Excited to have you here.
Thanks.
All right. Has anyone else got a question for us? Everyone's shy. Janice, you are not a shy person.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I'm not shy. I'm just sitting here editing. I finally figured out how to get on the lives.
Great.
My question, which Jonathan's probably going to reach out and smack me for, is, so I've been going through a lot of the trainings, and I'm really trying to get myself in the mindset of, listen, you just have to try it and see how it goes. We've decided we're not going to launch my ads until January, just because I listened to the last live and everyone's like, we're dead in December, except for newborn photography, and I don't want to pay a premium for ad spend. My concern, and I think I have the answer, but I'd rather hear it from you guys, is I'm a very like full transparency, type of studio. but I do feel like I'm hammering in the price so much to avoid the, you know, hey, here's your invoice, it's $5,000, and they're like, you know, shocked. So I'm still struggling with the, you know, when I talk to someone on the phone, saying, you know, clients spend anywhere from $850 to several $1,000s, because in my studio, no one spends $850. So I feel like I'm just going to have to find that balance of still being very transparent, but also not scaring customers away. I also have never had a no-show, because my clients typically have to pay a decent chunk of money up front to book me. And now we're going to do the register to win. So I get a little nervous that I might end up with, you know, like they were saying, you could end up with 10% to 20% no-shows. I think I figured out a way, because I'm like, well, then I have to still pay my makeup artist. So I think what I'm going to do is, if they want makeup, I will collect the fee for the makeup artist, so that at least they have that kind of skin in the game. And also she can still get paid if they don't show up. So anyway, my question is just, my whole point in doing this is that, so I counted up how many sessions I did for the year, and I only did 40, and I couldn't believe it. I made multiple six figures. So while some people feel like that is amazing, I want to do 40 sessions and make that much money, it's a little nerve-wracking for me. And I don't like the roller coaster effect. I know I've said this 5,000 times. I don't like I'm super busy one month and have a $30,000 month, and the next month might be $10,000 month. Don't love that. I get very panicky. So I would like to be booked more. My fear is now suddenly working more and my average being less. So I don't want to work more and make the same amount of money. The idea is to get more clients in. And, you know, I don't mind having several clients in a month that are only going to be $2,000 clients, and then still have my other clients that, you know, are going to spend more. So anyway, my thing is, that's my only concern right now, is just the, you know, what kind of clients is it going to bring in when I'm used to clients that are spending, you know, $5,000 and up. But like I said, like right now I'm not that busy, and I'm already like, you know, getting into this panic mode, which I don't know why. Everyone is pretty slow this time of year, unless you do holiday sessions, which I don't do. So I guess my question, and this very long question, is it okay to still kind of do things not so much my way, which my way was just very like, look, this is the price, take it or leave it. You know, still finessing the why, you know, they're doing the session, and getting more involved in that. And I really enjoy those conversations anyway. But still being very clear on what they can expect to spend, as opposed to waiting until they're booked in and then doing the design consult, and at the design consult saying, okay, well, based on this many outfits, or however many looks they want to do, this is what you can expect to spend. Hope that was clear.
Yeah, it was. There's about 7 questions in there, but let's take the top 3.
That's how I roll.
All right, let's take the top 3 in the order I think that we need to address them. So the first one about roller coaster effect. So you're absolutely right, Janice. If you're relying on your marketing to come from referrals or clients coming back in again, there's no way to control the consistency of that, right? And even if you do a fair, a charity auction, or whatever it is, there's still no way to control the consistency of that, because you're relying on others. So the only thing we can do to take out that roller coaster, and it'll never come out fully, right? But we're trying to turn this into more hills, right?
Yes.
Rather than mountains. So the only way we can do that is to have a proactive lead generation marketing piece. And that's what we're talking about here, right? That we're putting some marketing out there for people who are interested to raise their hands, right? Who are blissfully unaware. They've no idea that this even exists, right? So they're different from a Google search. So your Google search is going to come from 2 people, right? It's going to come from people who a client of yours told them how great Janice Morse photography is and that you should go to her experience. So they go home and they Google Janice Morse photography, right? Or they hear that the type of experience you offer, that it exists, right? And therefore they Google it. So the best example of this is most people who are getting married believe they want a wedding photographer, right? So they go on to Google and they Google wedding photographer New York, and Google shows them pages of photographers, right? So they go on and they go through those different sites, they build their knowledge about wedding photography, and then they create their short list. So they're now at the consideration stage of their buying process, and they reach out to a number of photographers and generally lead with, what do you charge for? Because they believe they've built all their knowledge, right? So that's how Google search works. It's either a referral where they're searching for your name, or they're searching for a search term that they don't know you yet, but they discover you on Google because they believe they want a wedding photographer, or they want a headshot photographer, or they want a branding photographer, or they want a maternity photographer, or they want a newborn photographer, right? And what we're doing with our proactive marketing is we're putting ads in front of them on Facebook and Instagram that says, did you know that you have this problem and we can solve that, and we are the solution to that problem? That's effectively what we're doing. So they're blissfully unaware that they maybe even have the problem, or that they need your service to solve a problem for them, right? So when we do that, the first step is we're getting people to raise their hands. But with all marketing, whether it's direct mail or whether it doesn't matter what it is, what marketing we do, it doesn't matter what industry we're in, it doesn't matter what business we're in, the stats always break down the same. The data breaks down like this. That no matter how good our marketing is, that 50% of people who raise their hands will not be our client. 50% of people who raise their hand, that there's 20% of those who will be ready to buy today defined as day 1 to day 30 window. The other 30% will buy some stage between day 30 and 2 years. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to have some sort of qualification process built into our lead generation. So initially we don't have to phone everybody. Now, if you're Brad, who's on this call, who's ill, one of the mentor team, he's ill. That's probably why his camera's not on. But if it was Brad phones every lead anyway, because he's got his phone conversation so dialed into his avatar that if they're right for him and his business, he will convert them, provided they have the investment level expectation as well, right? So initially what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to raise their hands who say, that's interesting, I want to know more, right? Fill out our form and answer our why question, which is our compelling question, so that when we read those, that we can read them and say, do you know what? Mary seems to be emotionally attached to the problem that I presented in the ad copy, and that I can solve that problem for Mary. So I'm going to phone Mary to have a conversation with her. So when I phone Mary, my conversation is about qualifying that Mary does have this need and desire, and that you can solve it with your photographic experience, right? And then giving her an idea as to what the investment level might be. So I don't have a problem with you if you want to tell Mary that your clients spend $5,000. Right? But the qualifier that I put with that, right, is that if Mary hasn't even met you in person, didn't know you until this phone call except seen your ad, you built a certain amount of know, like, and trust on the phone. But if you were Mary, would you give you $5,000 or commit to that up front?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it means then that we've got to build a little more know, like, and trust, right? And you do a consultation beforehand. So my question would be, if you're concerned about people coming in for the consultation and wasting the time there, right? Is there something else you can do along the way before that consultation to qualify Mary even further before you do the consultation? So a first step, Janice, might be well, I'm going to do the phone call, right? And I'm going to book her in for the consultation. But I'm going to send her a series of emails prior to the consultation that tells some clients stories, right? And if what I want to get over is her expected investment level, well, that's what the stories can deal with.
Mm.
So you can send Mary an email that talks about Rebecca who was in, right? And this was Rebecca's story, and here's her experience. And there's a testimonial from Rebecca at the end that says, I never thought that I would spend $5,000 with Janice, but the whole experience and the difference that those portraits make to me today, that I would have spent double that, or whatever that might be, right? So you're dealing with some of those objections along the way, but you're also anchoring some sort of investment levels.
Okay.
So where you don't want your clients to spend $850, but whatever that figure is, I'd have a mix of them. So if you know, you're happy for it, your average is whatever it is, right? But we all know that we'll have clients who spend way more and we'll have clients who will spend less. So whatever that bottom less amount is that makes you happy, right, in coming to that average, then maybe the first story is about that person and what they spent. And then maybe the middle one is about a bit more or whatever. But just bear in mind that it's only when they really come in and probably talk to you and understand what the experience is about. And then even at that stage, it might be when they actually see themselves reflected in those portraits, that they truly, truly, truly see the full value.
Okay.
So I understand your concerns, but that's more about you than about your client. And I
You're right.
understand that you don't want to waste some time, right? But if you can just think from your client's eyes as to, and through their lens as to what are they thinking at each step of your client journey? Because you know what you're thinking and you know what you're trying to avoid, but what are they thinking? What are they thinking as they go through this experience with you? That will help you then say, oh, well, maybe if I was Mary, like we talked about, maybe, you know, your reaction to that might be different than your reaction as the business.
Right. Yeah, and I do have a lot of those. Like, I just got an email from a client who, you know, she spent, well, when she's finishes ordering her last 2 acrylics, it will have been $15,000. And every email, you know, I keep staying in touch with her. She's already planning another shoot. And her last, I mean, she sent me a series of these emails, but the last one still says, and this was months ago, I can't tell you how these images have changed my life. It's given me a totally different mindset, a totally different perspective. So now she's planning, she still hasn't finished ordering from this shoot, and she wants to plan the next shoot. And I have a lot of stories like that, and I don't tell them. I tell them to like my educational group and tell them, look at this great email I got, and this is why you want to give a great experience, but I'm not conveying that to my clients. Which I feel like I really need to start doing that.
Absolutely. And you know that those leads that will want to buy from you at some stage after day 30 and 2 years, well, those stories are relevant to them as well. So your nurturing emails, you should send at least one nurturing email a month, one a month. And that should be a client story, like you've just talked about, right? And at the very end of that email should be on your PS is, if now's the right time for you, click here to ring you or fill out or email you or whatever response mechanism you want them to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what, because there'll be people who want to do it, but they just don't have the courage to go ahead right now, or they feel they don't know you enough to make that commitment, and there's reasons why that a lot of people will need to, they want to know and like and trust you a bit more before they go ahead, right? Or the timing might be just wrong. So I see this with high school seniors all the time, where people respond to a high school senior photographer ad, but it's not till next year, 12 months time, that their child is going to be at the stage of booking the high school senior portrait. And of course, the photographer who doesn't have a nurturing campaign, then they're forgotten about, right? And when the time comes around to book the high school senior photographer, they've forgotten that they even responded to an ad a year ago. But if that high school senior photographer was sending out a client story every month as an email, and the time is right, who are they going to ring?
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This client that I was just speaking about, it took them a year to finally come in and do their shoot. And honestly, she simply couldn't really afford it. And I think she was very like, I want to go full out. So she waited. And at the time, why this worked out was because my husband was working with me and he was nurturing, and he was, you know, keeping in touch with them and having multiple conversations. And then when she came in, it ended up being, you know, one of the biggest orders I've ever had, if not the biggest order I've ever had. And like I said, she's like not even done ordering from this session, and she's already so excited about the next one, telling me she's already bought outfits for the next one. And that only happened because he was very on top of checking in with her. Hey, you know, just want to stay kind of, you know, in touch with you. How are things going? How's your business going? And then this ended up being this amazing client who, you know, we email each other every few weeks. So, but I'm lacking that. I'm very excited about launching our ads because I'm ashamed to say, I'm proud and also ashamed to say that I don't market. Because how I think it was Jonathan I was talking to the other day, and I said, I don't know how I got to the numbers that I got to, because it's so few sessions and I'm not marketing. So I figure once we start marketing, worst case scenario, I'm just going to get much better and more confident at phone calls. Where, you know, I've already gotten better. I literally have all my little tips that I learned from the phone call module that I wrote down. And the first 2 phone calls that I had, they booked over the phone. Now I will say one of them canceled, but she's having all sorts of issues with, you know, her husband's health. She's still planning on hopefully doing something in the summertime. So she's one of these people that I need to figure out the engine so I can make sure I put her in there and keep following up with her, keep staying in touch with her, you know, sending her some client stories. The other one booked right over the phone, and I'm just literally waiting for her, and 2 very different clients. One of them is a maternity client and one of them is an over 40 client. But before I was very hesitant to book over the phone, to lock them in and have them pay their session fee over the phone, because I was very, no, you need to look at all the pricing and make sure you're very clear on everything before you commit to this. Where I've changed it up after listening to the phone call modules. And now I'm basically like, yeah, hey, let's get you, you know, if this sounds good to you, let's get you locked in. Figuring at the design consult, we'll really go over, you know, if you do this many looks, this is probably, you know, what you're going to end up spending. Are you comfortable with that? If not, let's kind of dial it in a little bit. At the end of the day, of course, I want to make more money and I'd like to do more sessions than 40. But I want to make sure my clients are comfortable, because like I said to Jonathan, I've spent 20 years building up a stellar reputation, and I of course want to hold on to that. And I never want anyone to feel like I pulled a bait and switch, or they didn't know, or they weren't well informed. But I do think there has to be a balance where I feel like I've gotten to this point where I'm just very like, listen, this is what it costs, take it or leave it. And I don't want to do that. I feel like the why is really important. My why, I'm struggling with the why questions with newborn and maternity clients, because I will ask and I'll get, well, I had a baby. I just want to have these cute photos. Maternity, same thing. Oh, I just want these pretty photos of, you know, well, why do you want to have these photos? How will it make you feel to have them? Oh, I don't know. I just want to feel pretty. I'm like, that doesn't really answer the question. So I have to dive a little more. Now, I will say I had a conversation with someone recently who, instead of saying, I just want newborn photos, she went into, I had a very difficult pregnancy, I had a very difficult delivery, and she got emotional when we were talking about it. So, you know, everyone's going to differ, but every now and then I'll get one person that's just like crickets on the phone and they have like 1-word answers for me. But I feel like having more conversations, I don't want to spend my days, you know, dialing the phone, but also I feel like having more conversations, gives me more experience to really draw these things out of them, you know? And I do always tell people, this isn't a need. This is an emotional purchase. This is a want, you know? So we do have to tap into, why do you want this? Why is this important to you? So in the end, I'm very excited to launch our ads. wish it wasn't December right now, but that's fine. In a few weeks, we'll get them going.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, no, I'm excited for you. I've no doubt that yes, the lead that comes from a proactive marketing lead source, it is different than a referral, right? It has to be. And because the person who's referred us, they've built a lot of the know, like, and trust in our client for us, right? Because they've told them about how great the experience was, what it meant to them, what they probably invested in, what they paid, so a lot of those questions that they may have already been answered by somebody else. We can't assume that'll always be the case because we still have to go through the process with them. But there's a good chance, right, that in the referral that all that has already been discussed.
Right.
While the lead with somebody who's raising their hands to an ad that they've seen, that they've identified with, none of that would have taken place yet. And that's where the conversations, and we have to just learn to tweak our conversations to have those conversations with clients and understand their need, discuss that with them, what their desire is, how this experience is going to solve that for them, give them that transformational experience. And then we can talk about an expected investment level. Right. But clients who we've had, Janice, who have had a similar experience to you, right? Have really great businesses, but are used to that. In the past, what's happened is they get frightened off before they ever get to experience the experience because that high investment level comes in too early. But there's a balance there, right? And time and resource and wanting to have that. So, yeah. So if you're happy with your clients investing $2,000, right? If somebody can spend $1,500, they can spend $2,000. Yeah. So that's another approach you could take, right? And have you talked to Jennifer Okamoto?
No.
Okay, so Jennifer is one of our concierge clients, and what's Jennifer's average running at, Jonathan? Just a matter. What do their clients invest with her based on the difference she makes to them?
For first birthdays, it's over $3,000.
$3,000. Okay, and she has sales in the region you talked about, Janice, of 5, 6, 7, 10, 12,000. But her average is at that, right? So on first birthday smash, cake smashes or smash cakes, depending where you are in the world, and she has a conversation where she gives an idea of starting prices around 800, and yet she has that investment level, right? Because she knows that during her client's buying process that she'll build that know, like, and trust in her consultations, in her experience, that when they get there, that they will want to make that sort of investment. So yeah. So whether that helps or hinders, but
no, yeah. So I have a question that I know you addressed, I think, on the last live call, but I have this tendency to I want them to see the value of these photos, not just now, but in the future. So I always take this approach of using my own personal experience, and I have a tendency to say, whether they're newborn photos or maternity photos, I have a tendency to say, these are for you now, but eventually these will belong to your child, to show them like these are going to become priceless in the future. Is that a mistake? Should I be making it more about now because that's what they care about, is the present?
Well, I think they're priceless today. I don't think they have to wait for the future to be priceless.
That's true. But I just feel like getting them with the like, oh, this is really, like, people have this guilt about spending on themselves, but if they feel like it's for their child, they might be a little bit more open to the investment. And maybe that's just in my own head. But yeah, that's why I'm wondering, is that a mistake to be more like, oh, look to the future. These are gonna, really increase in value over time. Emotional value, like I like to say emotional equity in these images, but is that taken away from what they're perceiving they're going to get out of it now?
Okay, so here's my opinion for what it's worth. and it's only an opinion, because I've no data to back this up, but so it's not a fact yet, but it's an opinion. And my opinion is that legacy is overdone in our industry.
Okay.
And it's not that it's not important, but I think it's overdone. It's a card that's played too often. And the reason why I believe that it's a card played too often is that when you look at people's desire to save for the future because they may need it in the future is a very, very small percentage of our population. So if people don't think they need to save for the future financially, then how do they feel about this with regards a portrait that's going to be priceless at some stage in the future? And it's just an opinion. I have nothing to back it up other than I see it played all the time. And I think that when we deep dive as photographers into it, that I think the legacy thing is more about us than about our client. Because that's what we want as the photographer and the artist.
Okay.
That it's about our legacy rather than our client's legacy.
Yeah. See, I
know
look
I'm
at it
getting
as,
really controversial now.
well, I see it as funny. My husband, you know, even when I was averaging $1,500 or $2,000, before he worked with me and before our children grew up, he would say, I would kill you if you spent that kind of money on photos. Then our kids grew up, and also he started working with me and he started having conversations with people and he started realizing what the photos meant to them. And now he says, I understand. I get it. And yes, I would invest that kind of money in photography. But again, I think it wasn't until our sons were fully grown that he realized how much he cherished, the photos that we had. And he was glad that I became a photographer once the youngest was born, because now we have, immense amount of photos of, beautiful photos of our kids growing up. But it took that long, 20 years until our kids were grown for him to kind of come to the realization. And I think that's why I kind of use it in my conversations. I just don't want it to take away from, this is for you now, you're going to enjoy it now, you're going to love it now. So I don't know. I feel like I'm getting very into tweaking a lot of things that I've gotten used to saying and incorporating new things and seeing how it goes.
So
I will
my
say,
advice,
go ahead.
my advice would be play up the now rather than the future, and the future is an added bonus.
Okay. That sounds good.
So put the emphasis on the now. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Can I jump in here for a sec? That this is such an interesting conversation. So between now and future, there's the kid's childhood. If it's if it's a shoot of a toddler, there's having the prints on their walls while they grow up. Is that different to that legacy idea, Ronan, or is that overplayed as well?
Give me the question again, Ian. I'm sorry.
So,
to ask you again.
So there's handing the prints down, bequeathing them to your kids in your will, which is maybe too far down the track to really conceptualize and to be a strong desire. But then there's also the years that the kid is living in your home and looking at those prints. It's still future and still maybe not as tangible as right now, but I think really, really important. And I've been playing that card. I would love to know if that's overplayed as well. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's as overplayed as the legacy piece.
Okay,
because I think that's more about, that's why I specifically say today, tomorrow, forever. So for me, the legacy is the forever piece. And tomorrow is about the kids piece in your example. So when those children are old enough to understand what this portrait means, to understand that regardless of their personality and their funness and there's a bit of divilment, right, is a word we would use in Ireland, for your avatar, for the children, that they know that it's okay to be themselves, that despite what their teachers are saying to them, or society is saying to them, or their coach is saying to them, that it's okay to be them.
So can I
There's a-
have 2 points on that if I could. So the biggest, I have 2 young ones, and the biggest thing is that they're always changing. And I actually just recently, in the past couple months, I had one client that came and spent $3,000 because her daughter is growing so fast. And I took this one picture of her daughter, and she's like, that has to be in her playroom. It has to be in her playroom forever. And so it matters of capturing their personality. And I always tell my clients, along with my kids, is they're not going to be this young tomorrow. You capture them one day, they're going to change the very next day. The very next, if you spend a couple of days without your kids and you come back home and you all of a sudden see like, oh my gosh, they grew a few more inches, or their facial expressions are different, or I get called bruh instead of mom. So I'm like, well, where's my mommy? Like, where's that kind of attitude towards my son? And he does all of these dabs, and he wears these cool glasses, and their personality is different every second too. So if you get this, I had a series of pictures. It was a lower sale, but it was awesome because she still bought these series of pictures. This other point that I have is this little girl made all of these faces, like a puffy face and her tongue sticking out and her eyes were crossed. And then she was laughing, and then she had this casual smile. Mom bought every single one of those pictures because every single one of those pictures is who she is all throughout the day. And then the other scenario that I just had is they booked in the spring. They're really excited because it's an older couple that adopted this girl. They adopted her when she was 8 months old, and now she's 8 years old. And they said the only like family pictures they really have are like small 8x10s that were taken on a phone and put up or whatever like that. And the mom is really coming in and ready to invest because like the adoptive mom is saying, we want her to look at the wall and we want her to feel like she is a part of this family. We want her to see that she is loved and she's a part of this family, because she's getting into that age where she's questioning, well, you know, my real parents or my biological parents or this family, like kind of feeling like an outsider almost. And she's like, I just want something, a statement piece that shows like we love her, we adore her, and this is her home too. So I'm definitely really ready for this session. I'm really glad this got brought up, because it's like that's where I thrive, and a lot of my images is like capturing those personalities of kids. And just like you can book probably personality sessions for kids once a year, because they are always changing their attitudes, their personalities, their looks, everything. There's even their style. Like my son wants a mullet right now. So I just, yeah. So anyway, okay, I'm done. Thanks.
So Amanda, if we just, before we finish on the call, because I know we're nearly at time, but if we take that client who's coming in for that session with her adopted daughter, right? And you mentioned that they want their daughter to feel she belongs as a family member, right? And you do this session and they invest in wall art that's displayed in their home. Like, what value can you put on that work where their daughter feels she truly belongs as a member of that family, and that her parents will always be there for her no matter what, and that she does belong? What value is on that?
Yeah, you can't put a value there. That's definitely an emotional value that you can't really put a price tag on, because she is coming to this new identity of herself. So I'm
But that value is there today, right?
Right. I gave them, they paid my session fee. No, they didn't even bat an eye. And I showed them my pricing guide, and at first she was kind of taken back, but this is also somebody that I worked with. We just built a new home, and her husband did like our septic stuff. Like he dug all the stuff, it's in the middle of nowhere. So he dug all of the stuff for our septic and things like that. And he had the value of, well, they paid me cash, so we'll pay her cash. And it was just something that I'm like, okay, cool. But what if what happens when he sees my $3,000, $5,000 framing thing? Like, so they were a little taken back. So they're like, well, they think that they're just going to want like this one big frame or this one piece of wall art of their kid. But I'm definitely trying to remind them, like, there's going to be a lot of pictures that you guys are going to love. So just trying to put it in the back of their head.
Yeah. And when she opens her eyes, what does she want to be reminded of?
Who, the daughter or the mom?
Daughter.
Yeah,
Daughter.
I know. That's
Who does she want to see the minute she opens her eyes?
Yep, that's
Now you have the wall art sailor for her bedroom as well as the one in the living room.
yeah. I'm definitely going to try to do that. I still have to go to their house and map everything out and take pictures of their walls and do all that. So I'm really excited to try to get the idea of how many pieces we can put and what where and what kind of gallery wall we can do, because I also want to show the significance of this power couple that has been through all of this, you know, in this lifespan. I mean, they have kids that are older than this adopted daughter. And I mean, that story alone is just is crazy in itself. So I think that's definitely where my passion lies, is doing things like that and showing kids, my kids and kids like her, that this is their home. They should be comfortable here.
Yeah. And to get back to your question, Ian, about, you know, often for your avatar, it's about, because Amanda sort of said it, she said it differently than I did, but often society is designed to knock the true personality out of children, right?
Oh,
That they
wow.
have to conform to something, right? And what you're doing is you're showing them that they don't have to conform. They can be themselves. So that will give them confidence to be who they are as they grow older as well.
Yeah, I'm reading a lot of stuff at the moment and listening to a podcast about childhood development, and it's incredibly powerful, that feeling of you know, that solidity in your personal image of yourself as you grow up, knowing who you are sort of solidly. You know, it might help prevent things like getting a mullet, Amanda. We should have spent most of the time on having an intervention for your son's mullet. No, I think, yeah, this has been such a good chat.
My
Love it.
22-year-old has the mullet. He loves
They've got to be stopped.
I love it. And he's a banker.
Mine's a drummer, so it goes. He's
Yeah, mine
The
looks like
drummer, you need it around the sides as well.
right.
Who, me? I'm lucky to have her, Ian. It's hanging in there, just about.
All right. So yeah, and you know, this is a journey for our industry. Like a lot of our industry persuades us to think that it's about the photography, and it's not. It's about what that photographic experience creates, about the relationships. It's about what the photography, when it's displayed on in their home, on the walls, in an album, in a folio box, makes them feel. That's what it's all about. And what job does that have today, tomorrow, and forever? And that's our mission at the Fully Booked Photographer, is to help more and more photographers realize that's what it's about. It's not about us as a photographer. It's about the difference our work makes to our clients. So thank you for joining us on the call. Thank you for being the difference makers you are, and we're here to help you anyway to amplify that difference. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
So guys, for this call, just a reminder for all those who joined, this is our last call pre-Christmas. So we'll be back on Monday, I think it's the 8th of January, is that right? Yes, Monday the 8th, we will be resuming these calls. So there's a bit of a break over the holiday period.
Thank you, Jonathan. Have
I'll
a great
pretty much
holiday,
see you guys
everybody.
in February, by the way.
All right. Okay.
Have a
Have a
good
great
Christmas.
holiday, everybody.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
one.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
guys.
Christmas, everybody.
I was on the Zoom.